Thanks so much for your time today, Dmitry. I've really enjoyed our chat. Very interesting journey over the last 28 years. Moved to the US in 1997, worked in a tech company, then trying to send flowers to loved ones back in Russia, but couldn't find a good website or experience. So you started a flower delivery business, initially focusing on just in Russia. Then in 2002, launched gift baskets overseas. 5 years in, bought your business partner out, quit your day jobs, and really focused on the business. By 2015, we're doing around $2 million US a year now, over 11 million with 120 team members. Congratulations to you and the team on the growth.
For people that looking for quick success, it's sometimes a very daunting task. It requires a lot of patience, perseverance, sometimes focus on the areas you don't necessarily like to be focused on.
G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Trewin. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Dmitriy Peregudov from Gift Baskets Overseas, based in Boston, United States. Thanks for your time today, Dmitry.
Thanks for having me, Troy.
Let's start with how we know each other. Otavia, a brand manager on your team, reached out a few months ago. I thought you'd be a great guest for us.
Yeah, lovely. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of great questions I anticipate. So let's get to it.
We'll tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Sure. So I run giftbasketsoverseas.com for almost 20 years or so. I would say it's been a while, and it's an e-commerce play, primarily focusing on delivering gift baskets and corporate gifts, edible gifts, and so on around the world. We service 200 countries, and that's the main focus, international gift baskets. I also run another smaller company that's been only started about 3.5 years ago, and this one is called Gift Senda, actually right here. So this is the one that also in the gifting space, kind of related. We offer corporate gifts, and it's a gifting platform allowing companies to do gifting at scale, automated, integrated into their sales process, and so on and so forth. So this is a second one, and they're both sort of interrelated in many ways, and happy to tell you more.
Yeah, great. Tell us, how did you start out?
Well, I've immigrated from Russia a while back in 1997, and worked in high tech a little bit. Got my MBA here in the US, and at some point had a girlfriend in Russia, and also she traveled in Europe and so on, and also had my parents back in Russia at the time, and so I needed a way to send flowers to them, to my loved one, to relatives, friends, so on, and flowers and gifts. And I was trying to do that using existing websites, and I failed miserably and didn't really love the experience, and just sort of figured that I need to try something like that myself. If it's so awful, I need to do something, see if it works. So I started one website that just delivered flowers in Moscow, my home city back in Russia. And I was already living in the US, and that made sense. I had a lot of people, immigrants that I knew, and they all wanted some kind of service like that. So I ended up just to try it, and I ended up growing to making it nationwide and eventually international. So Russia isn't really as much in the picture anymore, but it's a global business today that services 200 countries worldwide.
So what year did you start the business and how old were you?
I was 20, I was my mid-20s. So 1997 makes me, I also came to the US, and then I worked and I started 2002, the first one, and I was basically under 30. I was 27, I believe. Yeah, somewhere around that. Yeah, 27. So that was my first foray into online business. Yeah.
So 2002, when you started this one.
Yeah. It was initially a flower business, and that's called Good Choice Flowers, and that also kind of still there as a domain name, goodchoiceflowers.com. It delivers flowers globally. But the main domain today is giftbasketsoverseas.com.
Yep. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 23 years?
Oh yeah, that's quite a number of years to count years. So we started basically from ground zero, investing very little cash. I had a business partner at the time that I've started with. We just put in like $1,000 of our own money and just worked on it ourselves, just him and me. And there were no employees for first couple of years. We just did everything from customer service to marketing ourselves, and kind of really didn't have the resources to hire people. And we didn't raise capital either. We just sort of did it on the side. We had our own jobs elsewhere as well. We just kept sort of doing this business part-time and working full-time and supporting ourselves. And then eventually sort of, started growing. And by year 3, we had the first employee. By year 5, we had probably 12 employees or so, 12 people or so. And then so it was kind of a slow organic growth. Eventually, we kind of ended up falling apart with my business partner, and I ended up buying him out. And so he really wanted to do something else, and I really wanted to stick with the business. I quit my full-time gigs and really focused on the business full-time as of 2007 or so. And then as of that time, I really kind of was laser focused on growing it. By then, we had about 40 people or so in the company, and today we have 120 people full-time across 2 companies I run. One is about 100 people, and GiftSend is 20 people today. So this is where we are. Revenue-wise, is also quite a jump. I just recently did a calculation of 10 years ago and where we were to 10 years ago. We had a revenue about 2 million 10 years ago, and today we had roughly 11 million for combined revenue between the companies. So it's not like I would say rocket ship kind of growth, but it's very good, organic, healthy, stable company. It has been quite good to me, and I think I gave a lot of myself to it. So and the team was great, amazing.
That's phenomenal growth over 23 years, and slow and steady. But to get to 120 team members across those 2 businesses, 11 million top lines is phenomenal. Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Well, I remember this fairly clearly when I was working full-time still. It was like probably my last year when I was working full-time elsewhere, working for a man. And I had to take this one business call, and I was obliged. I sort of went outside to take that call, and that ended up creating a single order that was worth more value than my annual salary for 3 years in the company I worked for. So like when I realized this was like a capability, and I figured I'm stealing from myself by working somewhere else. I just couldn't continue working elsewhere and same time doing the business. I wasn't a good service to my business. And so I ended up like firing myself from another job that I had and biting a bullet, which is tough because when you have kids and you have family, and it's a lot of risk. The health insurance has to go at your own expense. So a lot of like things just all of a sudden piled up, and I had to deal with. But that particular moment, I felt like, okay, I think it's not like a success story where you're like at the edge of the cliff and you're taking all the risk, but because I already had the business generating revenue and profit, but still it was pretty far away from a stability point when I quit the job. So it was still pretty scary, I would say.
And what does success look like to you?
Well, it's a combination of things. I think it's a feeling of being independent and sort of finding a direction that you want to go into, making your own schedule, making your own plans of how you want to spend your time. I think that's important to me. And also, of course, the team growth, not only in the number. Actually, I prefer the team to be not much larger than it is today, but the team quality and the people that I get to build relationships with, and in doing so, I think they have grown with me and they have grown with the company. A lot of them started really, really small and uh, modest, and today they have grown to very capable career makers that that they can find their home here, and very low turnover. A lot of people love it here, so I'm really enjoying that, and I love giving it back to people. So,
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
well, the marketing on depends, I guess, on the industry quite a bit, but primarily being where your customers are. Obviously, our customers are mostly on Google and lately on AI within all the possible places. So in our case, it it took us some time to develop the brand and have some brand leverage on Google, on Bing, and so on. And that's translated eventually into also being found on AI tools. And we are well recommended elsewhere in those tools. And we feel like it's a natural, organic process. Once you build the brand, it gets to sort of transpose itself in various places. In today's times, I think being known to AI, being recognized by it, can only come from brand leverage, and I think it's tough to be starting today without it. You just can't be known to AI if you don't have that. So building that up is a first thing to do. We were kind of slow with building a brand. I think we were focusing more on the customer themselves and for the customer experience, which helped to build the brand, but it wasn't until much later when we had a conscious branding effort to understand who we are, to really sell ourselves properly.
I get asked this question all the time around marketing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. How do you see the importance of SEO these days, search engine optimization, in the day and age of AI?
I think it's changing quite rapidly. We're seeing some interesting statistics on our reports where we see, uh, let's say, about the same spend, or like we just fix the spend, and we see a lot more impressions for the spend that we will make, but a lot less clicks, which it used to be a very alarming metrics. If you all of a sudden you have a lot of impressions and you have less clicks, so your click-through rate goes down. But with AI, it's fairly explainable because you do have a lot of little blurbs that are get integrated into search results, and those blurbs sometimes provide the sufficient information where the click isn't really always happening or not happening the same registered way it used to. So you kind of have a lot of clicks that aren't registered the same way, or information gets disseminated to a potential customer differently. So our conversion from the same expenses is actually higher, despite clicks being lower. So it's quite interesting the way that we see it. Of course, it's yet to be proven what exactly that translates to in terms of customer behavior, but we do see quite a bit of trending in that direction where AI is changing the way the search looks like. And that's mostly on the SEM level on the pay-per-clicks, but on the organic search, it's a very similar behavior where you see you need to have your site well optimized for SEO, and a lot of the same techniques that you use to optimize your website for SEO are also getting you some nice inclusions into AI blurbs, such as markups and so on.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. The marketing podcasts I listen to, that they say SEO is still important because AI needs as much content as it can to understand who is the best brand out there, and SEO is a piece of that content. Yeah.
AI is very good about using systematized data, the data that is well marked up in a technological way, something that Google has been recommending for ages, to mark up your text and your content in general, whatever that is, videos, pictures, and so on. If they're well marked up, AI has a much easier time to understand and decipher it. And the faster it is to do it, the quicker it is to sort of spit it out. So it will work with whatever easiest. And I think that works in our favor at the moment.
And you mentioned customer experience a moment ago, and I know you use Net Promoter Score. Do you know what your number is?
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty proud to share that one. It's resounding 64% for the previous year that we measured it, and we measured it annually every year, and it's been growing fairly steadily, single digits every year, like 1 or 2% higher. So we've been fortunate to build a customer service, a very strong customer service platform and a human-enabled system that allows us to really get it right for a customer. We've compared that against industry averages, and it looks like it's like 30 to 35% in our segment. So being 60, it's quite over 60 is quite healthy. We've been over 50 for the last 10 years, so I would say recently it's been growing not as fast as it used to. But when we started measuring it, we were like in 25-30 range, like about average for the industry. And since then, we've been growing quite a bit.
Yeah, holy shit, that is a good number, 64. And for the audience, I'll include a link through to a blog post I wrote. There's a 10-minute podcast to explain how the Net Promoter Score works, but it measures customer loyalty. Bain & Co. created it in the early 2000s. It's one question you may have heard. Apple use it. A lot of small and big businesses. How likely are you to recommend us between 0 to a friend or a colleague between 0 and 10, not 1 and 10? And there's a formula. It's not a straight percentage out of 100%. It's either a positive or a negative. Negative 100 or positive 164 is phenomenal. I think the average around the world across all industries around 20. 50 is really, really good, is excellent. And anything above, 60 is amazing. So that's a great testament to what you and the team are delivering to your customers. Well done.
Thank you, Troy. We also measure a lot of other things kind of comes to customer satisfaction. We look at, we have a survey that we send out after each of our orders being delivered. We always check whether customer satisfied. So we look at the metrics like that. We also look at opposite of dissatisfaction metrics, which is quite important as well, and why that is, and so on. And we also look at the returns of the dissatisfied customers, which is quite important because if you look at really building relationships with customers are built through a common experience of a sort. So when you have a negative experience, that's also a pretty strong experience to share. So if we share that with a customer, we take an opportunity to see how we can fix it. And so that if you had just a regular experience or a positive experience, you may forget about it. You may refer it, you may not. But if you had a negative, you definitely going to remember it. So if you fix that negative, you have a strong emotion that's covered by positive emotion. And then if that then later leads to return business, that is often a customer for life. And that's really what we are striving for. And you have quite a few cases where really dissatisfied, really, really nasty cases that we really messed up, right? It happens. Doesn't have a lot, but like, let's say 1% of the cases, some kind of mess happens, right? And usually it's not necessarily not always in our control. It may be third party. It's a courier messes up. Sometimes it's a weather delay or things like that. Still, we take responsibility. We have to fix it, and we do. But when you do fix it and you do it right, they do come back and they'll love you because you fixed it once. They remember that for forever.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that Bill Gates quote that success is a poor teacher. So I think it's important to find the things that you've fucked up or the mistakes you've made, learn from them, change procedures, policies, whatever need to happen, but obviously put the customer first. And you're right, they'll absolutely come back and love the business even more so.
Can't agree more, for sure.
Now, how you funded the business, you've run us through that. So pretty much just bootstrapped, haven't had other investors in. You bought your business partner out about 5 years in. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Well, it's a good question. Probably not the same way, not in the same places. We actually are investing now in a new way to do what we do. We on the corporate side, we've created Gift Sender, which is a corporate platform, as I mentioned. That's a very different product from our initial e-commerce play. It's the one that can really measure ROI on your gifting effort. So if you are sending gifts, how do you know they really help your business? How do you know they help you to build relationships with your customers or leads and so on? So the Gift Sender answers those questions. It really helps you to sort of put that in a just like any investment you make in a business. Wouldn't you want to measure your gifting? And that's important because loyalty is hard to measure without the cost. The cost has to be put in the context of that. So So Gift Send allows you to consider it. And another thing we're doing on the B2C side, on the consumer gifting segment, is we are building a very developed international gifting app that allows customers to use it just as easy as Uber or DoorDash. Well, that's probably DoorDash. I'm not sure if you guys have that in Australia, but it's pretty hot here in the US, and that it's just a very easy way to get fast food ordered. So in terms of gifting, it needs to be super easy, super quick, and internationally added to that. It seems like a complicated matter to send gifts internationally, but it has to be easy. It has to be super quick. So what we're building now is a platform, a marketplace of gifts, where all the gifting suppliers are able to sell their gifts through us, and we make this super easy and super quick. So this is a new product that we are about to launch. It's called Givella. It's another G name, but this is still in process. And just a quick sneak peek I mentioned to you. You're actually the first person I'm mentioning that publicly to, so please keep that.
Yeah, oh well. And especially with Gift Sender, I assume you follow and track your lifetime value and customer acquisition cost.
Yes, so it helps if gifting is part of the sales activities that a business is engaged in, such as marketing. Maybe it's a webinar registrations, maybe it's a invitation to a conference, maybe it's just an invitation for a cup of coffee, a virtual chat. Gift Sender has all options for any of those kinds of engagements. It allows you to load up your list of leads or contacts and send out invitations to accept an invite for, it could be just as little as $5 Starbucks gift card, or it could be as much as $100 basket of goods delivered to their door. And if person accepts the gift, then the sender, we on behalf of the sender sending the gift. But if they don't accept the gift, you spend nothing. You literally have a solution in your hands that preserves most of your marketing budget or most of your sales budget, no matter, depending on how you use it. So it basically allows you to use your funds in a very smart way. And the recipient may not want to be bothered because, they don't, like, their policy doesn't allow to accept gifts, for example. If you're doing a direct send, how do you know if they actually can accept the gift you send? Maybe there's some policies around the value of the gift. So you can test all of that with an invitation. An invitation accepted, then you can send the actual gift. And this is allowing also recipient to donate the gift to a value of the gift to the charity of their choice. For example, you say you got a gift basket with wine, but you don't drink wine, you don't care for the basket, right? But you care about a cause of a sort. Let's say you care about the cancer as a cause, or sick children in a certain country, right? You can actually donate to a variety of charities, take a value of the gift, and just send it out there. So it's going to be donated on your name instead of you accepting it. And the sender still sees that you accepted the gift, just not the same one that they sent.
Yeah, that's great. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Sure. Well, there were many, but like some that come to mind when it started early on, when we were just getting started and didn't have a lot of orders, and all of a sudden we started getting this avalanche of orders. We were super excited and happy, and processed a bunch of orders, and then like a few days later realized but they were all fraudulent. So we got hit by fraud. I'm sure a lot of e-com people can relate that you just don't have experience yet, and you're just super excited, and you service these customers that love you, and all of a sudden, like, they're not real. Like, not only is that you waste a lot of money, but you also, like, that love wasn't real. They didn't really love you. Nobody loved you. Like, because, fuck, what happened?
And you would, obviously a lot of chargebacks and the risk there. I've had a couple of e-commerce,
Sure.
my own
Yeah,
e-commerce.
your merchant account gets in jeopardy too. If you're small, like, they don't know what you're doing, right? Like, it's companies, like, they look at the numbers, like, these guys have like 70% chargeback rate. What the hell, you
Yeah.
know? So
It's even more brutal these days. I've heard Stripe's got a threshold. It's about 1% chargebacks in a very short period of time. And not only will they kick you out of the current Stripe account, but if you're attached to any other Stripe accounts and other businesses, those ones get blocked as well. So these days, obviously,
oh
it's
yeah,
such.
it's terrible. Yeah, they do have a connection to the owner usually, and they like if you mess up, you as the owner follows them, they're gonna profile you like crazy. They don't like to deal with the high risk businesses. I understand their model, but like there are other providers that have worse rates, and they build in the rate the risks that they deal with, and that they can allow higher.
Yeah.
But we have the low chargeback rate. Like in our business today, I think it's less than one, less than 0.1%
Yeah.
chargeback rate. And majority of it is like fraud that we somehow missed because 3D Secure wasn't offered by the card holder or something. And like we're just really religious about making sure we kill all the fraud. And whenever we find it, we like try to contact the card holder whenever we can find one, and alert people as well if whenever possible. So
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I think the team itself is really the most important area. We used to in the early days, my business partner and I, we were looking at people joining us as a resource primarily. Like we didn't understand exactly what it means when someone works for you and how much the blood and sweat that people put into working for you actually means. We're thinking like there's a time exchange for money. Very simple, right? Well, learn the really hard ways, and that the benefits of culture, benefits of core values, what that means, how much it matters. And only probably around 2016, I'd say like about 9 years ago, we really formulated our core values, understood what the culture is, and really started hiring and firing based on these values. And we used to only do it based on a skill, believe it or not. Like we just look at the resume, like understand the person really works out. They can do the job. They were golden. And we sometimes we wouldn't let people go if they were amazing at the actual hard skills. If they were super toxic, we still kept them.
Mm.
After a while, we started letting them go, and like one after another, we cleaned up the team. Oh, the team became so much happier overall. Everyone just became more productive. So, like, it's just a lot of ways to look at the benefits of detoxifying your team. So, I think this work alone it was the biggest investment on my end and on the management team's end. How much we put into it, how much extra time and money were invested in building a strong team.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Well, we've had some of those moments. We usually grew really organically. We didn't have a super fast growth for most of the time. But in the COVID was an example. Like I guess you probably heard from other business owners that COVID was like an outlier kind of a period for many businesses. But for ours, it was on a positive end. Like we actually grown like crazy, for free, right? Like we didn't invest much extra in marketing. We had we more than doubled in COVID. So like we were like around 6 mil prior to COVID. COVID hit, and within like 2 years, we were like 14 million or something. Like it was like in a matter of like year and a half that it happened. We've grown the team pretty quickly. What I didn't like necessarily is that the size of the team ended up being like close to 150 people in total, like 140, 150. And it all of a sudden from being like a family kind of operation or like a large village kind of operation, it became like a small town.
Hmm.
And I didn't like that feeling. Like it was like you don't know all the people, like some names. I don't know who this person is. I wasn't comfortable with that. A lot of people were like, I don't know everybody. Like so it just changed the culture a lot. Also, we ended up hiring too fast, and the quality of the hires wasn't the same. We were sort of compromising our values when that hiring was done during the COVID. So right when the sliding happened after COVID, we ended up like letting a bunch of people go because they weren't the right fit. Not because we couldn't necessarily keep them all. We couldn't actually keep them all, but also because of these values questions. They weren't really right people. And they were also kind of changing the way that the whole team was operating. So we really cleaned it up since again, and now we have a pretty solid very, very detoxified team that we love and want to maintain. So.
Yeah, I assumed you had a good bump in COVID. Most other e-commerce businesses I've spoken with did have. How about during the GFC after late 2008? Did you have a dip thanks to the GFC, or was it still pretty steady?
Back in 2008,
Yeah.
we were too small to have that matter as much. I think we've seen some stagnation, perhaps, but not really the rollback, so to speak. I've seen on and off, like sometimes we had single digit growth percentage wise, sometimes we had double digit growth, but on average we were growing like 10% a year, so roughly on our organic case. So we've kind of grown for like 2 to 6 over the years with that rate, and then like COVID kind of helped out a lot, and then since then we actually had a slide down from like from the peak. It took a while, like 3 years slide down. Now we hit the bottom, we bounced back up, so we're like growing again, which is great. But over the years, I don't think we've seen as much of a spikes as much as we've seen in COVID.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I really enjoy the roller coaster. I kind of love and hate both of those. Both love and hate a roller coaster in a way. Like you always have something. You open your inbox and something happens. Something crazy happens. Sometimes something crazy positive, sometimes crazy negative. But it's a strong emotions, for sure. And you're never bored. That's for sure. Never bored.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. So, yeah.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Yeah. I guess the sort of going changing the philosophy around growth. Growth isn't necessarily always great. Sometimes it's pretty painful, and sometimes it's not in the right moment. I always, like in the younger years, I always felt like growing can be positive. Like it cannot be ever, there should be no downsides for it. I actually had a class in my MBA program on it. Like it was called Managing Growing Business. And back in the day, the professor was actually a pretty brilliant guy. He was here. It was in Babson College here. It's a decent school out here. They taught us that managing growing business isn't always about growing the business. It's sometimes you have to actually do the opposite when the opportunity presents itself. So back in the day, it was sort of theoretical, but I understand it a lot better now. So yeah.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I would say a multifaceted approach and aptitude for being a very good generalist and being able to not just get stuck in one particular area for too long, because we all have, most of the business owners I know in the small business world, they come from some industry. Like it could be somebody who was a marketing guy or a salesperson, maybe it was a content developer lady, or someone that had a particular skill set. Somebody was a programmer, I was a software guy. So we tend to stick to our guns for some time, and we are very comfortable in the waters that we've been trained on. And sometimes that takes us away from the places of focus where you need to really be. That's not always where you actually are most comfortable. So the right approach is being able to sort of balance yourself, not to spread yourself. We have to spread yourself thin sometimes, but at the same time, you have to know where to focus when. And if you're just going to focus on what you know best, that's not the right place. You shouldn't look for the issue where there's a best lighting, so to speak. Like there's this phrase in my mother language, Russian. You shouldn't be basically looking for something hidden where there's plenty of light. You should really look where you need to look. So that's a kind of the probably one in English like that doesn't come to mind.
Are you a small business owner who is ready to take your professional growth to the next level?
Sign up to the Grow a Small Business Weekly newsletter. This is your go-to email every Friday and will take about 2 minutes to read. Join the Grow a Small Business community who, like you, are investing in their professional development. Each week, we curate valuable resources, whether it's expert advice, books, podcasts, industry insights, or actionable strategies. We've got you covered. Leave your email at growasmallbusiness.com/weekly.
Now, great question for you, not only because you peaked at around 150 team members during COVID, but over 23 years, you would have obviously hired a lot of people. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening? You've already mentioned a few.
Sure. Well, in the beginning, it was mostly skill sets and languages. We needed the majority of the people we were hiring at first were customer service folks and somebody who was assisting customers with placing orders. Then later, maybe some social media people, marketing people, and so on. But those was the primary roles. Other roles were developing later, like the tech and so on. And the sales roles, they kind of came later. But they were just skill-based hiring at first. But then later we realized you kind of need to really figure out who are the right people. People that will feel home here and that others would love to have around. Because it's very important, whoever you introduce to the team, others need to be comfortable as well. So having that kind of back of your mind all the time is quite important. We had developed internal metrics of what we feel is important in terms of how we decide who to hire. And one of the questions we ask ourselves, and whenever somebody makes a decision, I ask the person, would you go to a camping trip with that person and stay overnight in a tent with that person? And some people say, well, maybe. And some people say, well, I'm not sure. And that's where your gut feel talks to you. That's where your gut feel tells you maybe not, or maybe yes. But this is a delicate game. You gotta really feel it and figure out, are your values matching to that of that new candidate? Of course, some people can sell themselves. You never know. But there are cases where you can kind of get a feel, right? I know I know you're probably going to ask me at some point about my favorite book.
Yep.
And one of the books that I'm going to mention is Delivering Happiness, and that's by Tony He, and that's the founder, now deceased, founder of Zappos.
Yeah.
Zappos. I'm sure you know of him, obviously, but he's quite interesting in the way that when they were talking about core values, they were testing people, and one of the tests, they were trying to figure out, does this person matches 10 core values that Zappos has? And one of those values was be humble. And of course, it was a tough one to ask at the interview, like, how would you test that? Because they were telling a story how they would have a driver being part of the interviewing team, a driver who picks up a person from airport or from a bus station and brings them to the office. They would basically take notes from that driver to understand how the driver was treated. Was it treated respectably? Did they feel like the person wasn't really right? So that kind of came to that. And a lot of people weren't hired because they felt like they could order boss the driver around, or being impolite to the driver and so on. So that came into this interview process. So
That's good. I've also heard of the story, the CEO of a large financial business in the US. He'd get down to 2 or 3 candidates and take them out for a lunch or a coffee at a diner near the head office, and he knew the owner or the manager quite well. And every time they'd have it set up so the wait staff would make a mistake, and they would see how the candidates would interact just with those small things, whether they were mistakes or just if they were polite, and he would make the call on which of those 2 or 3 candidates, if it came down to that close, were a better fit.
Oh, that's excellent idea as well. Well, majority of the people we hire remotely, so it's pretty tough for us to do some of those things.
Yeah.
But because we've been a remote company from day one, so when the COVID happened, it was actually pretty natural. It didn't change much for us. Yeah.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
One of the things we actually do and we find important is we get people together for a corporate trip in person. This is a very kind of a mixed bag trip. They they have these trips have several goals. Like education is one of the goals, but mostly it's about team building, and it's about figuring out who we are as people. So we do some crazy stuff there. We go some hikes. We do some sports activities together. Like, for example, we have a traditional football game, a soccer game. I mean, whatever the right name is, depending on the country you're from. So that football game, we have oftentimes these trips are 60-70% ladies who never played football in their life, except in these trips. So they join it the first time they play, and that's really where you feel there's no skill, right? It's just real. You are who you are, right? And how they go into the game, the kind of passion they put into it, how they open up. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm actually looking at writing a book about that way of think how the football, the teamwork connect, and how it works for us. But anyways, those kind of activities and the trips in general, they happen every year. Sometimes we do 2 or 3 trips a year for different teams regionally. But these trips have been life-changing for us. We've been to 22 countries so far worldwide.
Wow.
We have a goal to visit all the countries that we service, which is 200. I know it's a long list, but we've started somewhere, so some ways to go.
Well, you definitely have to get out to Australia then.
That's a plan. Yeah, it's a little bit out of the way because we don't have anybody in Australia yet. But as soon as we can start having some people in like Australia, New Zealand area, then it's interesting because Australia is the only continent so far we have no people in the team yet. But that would be the gap filler for sure. Thank you for reminding me.
Back on culture, I'm going to send you a link to a great book, a guest I had on that I think you'd really enjoy. It's called It Pays to Play. And she's very much, Christy Herald, very much talks about what they do with their culture. And day one of team members starting, what they go through to welcome them is phenomenal. I think you'd really enjoy that book.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll check it out.
And tell our audience how you've handled balance.
I don't really. I'm pretty bad with balance. It's fucked up. What I try to do lately is I try to do more sports. Helps me a lot with stress. Obviously being a business owner of 2 businesses and also having a family with 3 children, it's tough to balance all that. So I really like the way that balance was described in a book I've read recently called 5 Types of Wealth. And that book mentions balance. They basically say balance doesn't exist. He says balance doesn't exist. What exists, however, is a season. So you have seasons of focus. In this, you have season of focus in your family. Maybe it's some years. Maybe you have season of focus in your health. Maybe you have seasons of focus in your work. And that actually connects well to me because we actually have pretty heavy seasons, like actual seasonality in the business. Not in a metaphorical way, but in a very literal way. Like we have like 15-20x revenue in some holiday months from a normal months. So it's really sick, like in November, December. We have to deal with a lot. So during that period, for example, balance doesn't exist. It's just weigh in at like all the hours you can. Then summers are different. They're much more mellow, and I try to be a lot more with my family. I try to be more active, but I try to interject that to do it throughout the weeks, but it's not always practically possible in my case. Yeah. So
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
well, the MBA was my big investment. I think totally not worth the money.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it was partially. I actually got it paid, my business paid for my MBA, so it's sort of out of pocket, but a little bit of a tax deduction. I think the one big thing that it gave me is I've met some people, and they were people that were very different from who I was at the time. I was extremely risk averse. I probably still am to some degree, but much less than I used to be. And I think that meeting those people and actually doing a project with them, actually we did another startup with a business partner from my school, from Boston College. We did a company in a marketing video space. That company I ended up flocking at some point later, but the experience of that, and my business partner used to be that used to be with me in that project. He was so risky, and I was so opposite. Like meeting him and working with him made me sort of steering towards the middle, and allowed me to really learn from him in ways that I didn't think possible. The school doesn't give you that, but the meeting some of the right people can. So I think the combination of sort of the knowledge and those kind of experiences may be worth it. Depends who you meet and how you get out there. I was lucky that I had that chance. I ended up losing some money, going through nasty business divorce with this guy, but we learned a lot from each other, and that was, I think, I'm thankful to him. So
That's what I've heard with MBAs. For a lot of people, the greatest value comes out of that is the network or the people you meet.
for sure.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Yeah. Well, a couple. So in Boston, I had a marketing professor who is amazing. Bob Casper, his name is. He's still around. Probably does some consulting. Mostly retired though, and he's been amazing. After one of the Boston classes, marketing classes, I came to him and said, "Hey, Bob, I have this dilemma. I have an education in engineering, and that diploma I have from my engineering school, and I could continue going into engineering and advancing in that career. And I already have worked in engineering and software engineering for quite some time, so I could continue." And, making, stable salary, having good benefits, everything very stable, nice for family, 9 to 5, great, right? Good schedule. Or I have this other business. I was sort of still starting out, the flower business, the gift business. That's kind of small, starts making some money, but not really paying bills yet. And I asked him, "What do you think I should do?" He told me, "Let me ask you a question." He asked me the question instead of answering my question. He said, "Do you want to be rich or do you want to be an engineer?" So I'm like, what does it mean? Like, that's what a stupid question, I said. He's like, "Well, maybe question is stupid, but it's about the framework. It's about state of mind, right? Like, do you more care about being rich or do you more care about being an engineer?" I really like tinkering and things, really. My brother I have a brother, he's an engineer. He really loves engineering. For me, engineering is actually a tool, no more than that. It's just like another instrument of sorts. Like, it's one of the things that helps me do my job well. It doesn't necessarily mean that I answered like I want to be rich. I couldn't imagine that or anything at the time, but I did remember that question, and it kind of stuck to me, and it kind of guided me forward. I left the luggage of engineering diploma on the station, and I sort of went in a different direction. And today I'm not sorry about that. I actually love that. Another great coach is my former boss in the company that I used to work for at my last employment. It was a tech company that sold SaaS services, such as Microsoft Exchange and other. And he was a great marketing and sales executive, and he kind of taught me a lot of things when I worked for him. But also later, he quit that. I quit that as well, and we reconnected. And he's now a business coach who written a great book called Further, Faster, and the vital few steps that take the guesswork out of the growth. He's been my coach for a few years now, and also helped coach the team that I manage. So he's been a pretty good inspiration for a lot of us. He's the one who sort of guided us to build our culture, understand it, and really put it on our logo, so to speak. Yeah.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I do have some advisors, but there's no board necessarily. I think I probably should have a board. I've been looking at that and thinking about it, but I haven't formed one yet. Don't even know why. I have no good answer. I think it would be helpful, but I don't have one.
Yeah, I've written 2 LinkedIn articles years ago on putting a board together, whether it's advisory or formal directors, and the second one on you should start with the chairperson, pick those first. So I'll send you both those articles.
Please, yeah, actually, that would be perfect. I'm just making mental and physical note on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I sit on, I think, 6 boards now. I chair most of those, and I love it. I started about 10 years ago. The second longest is about 9 years now, so it's a lot of fun. The best part for me is I don't actually have to do any work. I just turn up, we talk, we thrash issues around, and then the CEO or the GM goes off and executes. So it's great.
Very cool. Very cool. I should ask you later about your expertise on that, or maybe you can tell me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have a chat after this. All right, Dmitry, one of our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
The harvesting parts are often pretty dull in the beginning for people that looking for quick success. It's sometimes a very daunting task. It requires a lot of patience, perseverance, sometimes focus on the areas you don't necessarily like to be focused on. In my experience, oftentimes it's been taking me in a direction I felt uncomfortable or didn't feel like it's my thing, but I had to learn and sort of deal with it. It's also about figuring out when to let go and growing. Next stage being figuring out when you need to find and replace yourself in those areas that you've started harvesting. And sometimes understanding the job will help you to hire the right person for that job. Which means, by the way, you have to do that job at first. Maybe it's going to suck. Maybe you're going to suck at it, but you're going to do it because how are you going to know who to hire into it?
Exactly. Yep. Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
So lately, I already mentioned Further Faster from Bill Flynn, and that's my coach. As well, he's written a bunch of other books recently that I'm getting to as well. Delivering Happiness, I've mentioned that one. I also love the Sahil Bloom's of the 5 Types of Wealth. That was my latest book that I've read about balancing or lack of balance in terms of work, wealth, health, and social and time. Like those are the pillars of the book. I really recommend that quite a bit. So
I assume you've read the classics, the E-Myth, Good to Great, Built to Last, Jim Collins, all those.
Of course, yeah, love those. That's part of my early reads, but amazing, yeah.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
So I kind of like HBR podcasts, Harvard Business Review. I'm right here in Boston, like half hour from Cambridge. So
yeah,
I like that quite a bit. They got some interesting speakers and case studies and so on. I also like conversations that happen not only on the business side, but oftentimes they're business related. Lex Friedman's podcast. I think it's just called Lex Friedman. I don't think he has a name. But he's a computer scientist from MIT, and he has podcasts on really anything. It's politics, life. He talks to some interesting people. Most recently, he talked to Mr. Durov, the founder of Telegram. That's actually an amazing episode. I highly recommend that one. Pretty interesting speaker as well. So I'm sure you talk to Trump, and he wants to talk to Putin as well. But it's interesting. Always has interesting characters showing up. Yeah.
Have you come across the Harvard Business School podcast, Think Big, Buy Small?
I actually haven't, but I'm gonna write it down.
I'll send that to you. It's Entrepreneur ETA. So the 2 professors, Rick and Royce, run they teach about ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition. So some really interesting stories in there. And that's the acquisition side. The other one that I will listen to religiously, gone through all 500 podcasts, is Built to Sell Radio. Have you read any of John Morillow's books? I'll send you those. No need to write it down. I'll send them all to you.
Oh, it's right. Yeah, would be great. I appreciate it, right? Yeah, that'd be amazing.
He's got a great weekly podcast, but yeah, his 3 books are excellent as well. And another book you may not have, I only came across it from a guest 2 or 3 years ago. It's in my top 3 favorites now. Great Game of Business. Have you heard that one?
No, I haven't.
That's great. I'll send that through to I think it would resonate. Three main things that he talks about in there is ESOPs, employee share ownership plans, open book management. So the author Jack Stack's pretty much known as the godfather of open book management. So not just sharing your numbers with your team, but educating them, running workshops on how to read a P&L, cash flow, balance sheet, etc. And the third one is the best bonus system I've come across. He writes about in that book, but it's an amazing story to listen to what they went through from buying the Caterpillar factory in the early 1983 in Missouri, $9 million. They only had $100,000. A really interesting journey over the couple of decades.
Wow, yeah, it's amazing. Sounds like a great story to read, or now I do a lot of stuff on audio, so yeah, listen to. So yeah, I also have a connection to this. So about big and small. I remember the book with similar title, "Small is the New Big" by Seth Godin. That's been a while. This book has been published, I think, 15 years or so. But he talks about how small businesses it's hard for small business to compete with bigger. So you really need to go very narrow and small to win the business against the bigger company. It's pretty simple concept, but not easy to implement. Just conceptually opened my mind to understanding that in some areas I can compete with bigger guys. Just need to really focus and do it right on a small scale.
Yep. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Well, a few, but like we are HubSpot, and it's been life-changing in many ways, from initial marketing automation to CRM, and eventually to workflow automation sequences and so on. So it's been a quite tool across the organization. As it got disseminated, people loved it, and we use it quite a bit. Yep.
Final, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 28 years ago?
Just do it.
Great advice.
I just did it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for your time today, Dmitriy. I've really enjoyed our chat. Very interesting journey over the last 28 years. Moved to the US in 1997, worked in a tech company, then trying to send flowers to loved ones back in Russia, but couldn't find a good website or experience. So you started a flower delivery business, initially focusing on just in Russia. Then in 2002, launched gift baskets overseas. 5 years in, bought your business partner out, quit your day jobs, and really focused on the business. By 2015, we're doing around $2 million a year now, over 11 million with 120 team members. Congratulations to you and the team on the growth.
Appreciate it, Troy. Thank you for getting summarized on all that. And perhaps just one small note that so 2002 was the flower.
Yep.
In 2007, we kind of went into gift baskets, and but it's a small note.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.